What if I told you that some of the most pharmacologically active antimicrobial plants on Earth are growing within 20 feet of your front door right now, and you have been spraying them, pulling them, and trying to kill them for decades? Every year, Americans spend more than $2 billion on lawn chemicals designed to eliminate plants that, in documented peer-reviewed research, are some of the most chemically sophisticated antimicrobial organisms ever to grow from soil. And every year, at the same time, more than 1.25 million people die from infections that no available drug can touch. These two facts live side by side, and almost no one connects them. Today we walk through 12 of these plants. 12 weeds most of you have growing within 20 feet of your front door right now. Stay with me, because plant number 4 is the only green living thing in many gardens in February, the winter healer that never sleeps. And plant number 1 grows in the cracks of sidewalks, and the Anglo-Saxons believed it could call life back into wounds that had begun to die. Subscribe before we begin, and type the word temple in the comments to let me know you are with me. Now let us begin. Number 12. Cleavers. Galium aparine. The sticky weed that clings to your jacket. Medieval Benedictine monks called it cleaver work and used it for swollen lymph nodes and glands that refused to drain. Cleavers contain iridoid glycosides, tannins, and a specific anthraquinone called asparuloside, which laboratory studies suggest has activity against several gram-positive bacterial strains. Traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic practitioners independently identified cleavers as a lymphatic herb. 3 unconnected traditions, same plant, same application. Cold, steep. A handful of young spring stems in water for 8 hours in the refrigerator. Do not heat it. Heat degrades asparuloside. Number 11. Ground elder. The Romans brought this plant to northern Europe deliberately, planting it as food and medicine alongside their garrison settlements from Britain to Germany. Agopodium podagraria. Modern gardeners consider it one of the most invasive weeds in temperate climates. The Romans considered it essential. The reason is falcarinol, a polyacetylene compound that research indicates has both antibacterial and anti-inflammatory activity. Falcarinol disrupts bacterial membrane synthesis, a mechanism distinct from most antibiotics. Use only the youngest shoots gathered before the plant flowers. After flowering, falcarinol concentration shifts and the leaves become bitter. It tastes of fresh carrot tops with a faint anise quality. Number 10. Self-heal. Prunella vulgaris. Named with unusual directness. The plant that heals itself and by extension you. Medieval surgeons called it carpenter's herb because it was applied to tool wounds on woodworking sites. The active compound is rosmarinic acid, identified as having antimicrobial activity against oral and respiratory pathogens. But what makes Prunella vulgaris unusual is a polysaccharide called prunellin. Studies suggest prunellin may interfere with the ability of certain bacteria to adhere to mucosal tissue, addressing one of the earliest steps of infection. 1 teaspoon of fresh leaves in a cup of water just off the boil, 7 minutes, at the first sign of a scratchy throat. Number 9. Sheep sorrel, Rumex acidicella. It has triangular leaves, a sharply sour taste, and it thrives in poor, acidic soil. Indigenous North American nations, particularly Algonquin communities, used sheep sorrel for digestive infections and fevers. The plant contains anthraquinone glycosides, specifically cresophenol and emodin, studied for antibacterial activity against gut pathogens. It also carries unusually high concentrations of flavonoids called vitexin and isovitexin, examined for activity against Helicobacter pylori, the bacterium responsible for most stomach ulcers. The same compounds appear in one of the world's most expensive specialty teas. Here they grow free in your neglected lawn. Use sparingly. A few leaves in a salad or a small infusion, no more than a cup per day. Number 8. Wood sorrel. Different from sheep sorrel, though related. Oxalis acidocella, the small clover-shaped plant that closes its leaves at night. Irish monks, when they carried healing knowledge through centuries of conflict, included wood sorrel in their formulations for wound washing. Its active mechanism is tannin content. To extract the astringent tannins for wound application, cold press the leaves rather than heating them. Heat volatilizes the tannins, cold extraction preserves them. Crush a handful of fresh leaves, press the juice into a clean cloth, and apply directly. The plant also contains notable vitamin C, documented as scurvy prevention in communities without citrus. Number 7. Plantain, the bandage of God. Plantago major. Grows in compacted soil along every driveway, through gravel, in every neglected corner of every lawn. The medieval name was not metaphor, it was instruction. The active compound is aucubin, an iridoid glycoside with documented broad-spectrum antibacterial activity. When fresh leaf tissue is crushed, aucubin transforms into catalpol, with a direct inhibitory effect on Staphylococcus aureus, including methicillin-resistant strains. The Cherokee, the Maori, and the Iroquois traditions, with no contact with each other, all used plantain identically. A secondary compound, allantoin, stimulates cell proliferation. It is used in commercial wound creams today, and it grows through the cracks in your driveway. Number 6. Dandelion, the most despised plant in North American lawn culture. We spend more than $500 million per year killing a plant that Hippocrates prescribed, that Persian physicians of the 10th century used for liver and bile conditions, and that the Book of Numbers records the Israelites consuming as a bitter herb in their wilderness journey. The bitter compounds taraxin and taraxasterol stimulate bile production and liver activity. Modern research has found that taraxin demonstrates inhibitory activity against gram-positive bacteria associated with internal abscesses. The root also contains inulin, a prebiotic fiber. Simmer 1 tablespoon of chopped root in 2 cups of water for 20 minutes. Number 5. Purslane, the biofilm destroyer the whole world eats except us. Portulaca oleracea, a mainstream food plant on 5 continents for 3,000 years. Greeks, Turks, Mexicans, Egyptians all eat it. The United States is among the very few cultures that classifies it as a weed and eradicates it. Purslane contains marine-type omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA, at concentrations unusual for a terrestrial plant. The mucilaginous polysaccharides in its stems appear to disrupt bacterial biofilms, the protective matrices bacteria use to resist antibiotic penetration. Eat raw in salads or sauté briefly with garlic and olive oil. Do not cook longer than 2 minutes, or you lose both the omega-3 content and the polysaccharide structures. Real quick, I want to pause here. If you are realizing that humanity treated these plants as essential medicine for thousands of years, and we have spent the last 70 years systematically eradicating them, hit the like button. It helps this video reach the people who need to see it. We are halfway through. The next 6 plants are where this list goes from informative to genuinely remarkable. Number 4. Chickweed, the winter healer that never sleeps. Stellaria media. There is a fear anyone who relies on medicinal plants eventually faces. Most of nature's pharmacy closes in winter. Most infections, unfortunately, do not. Chickweed solves this problem with quiet brilliance. It germinates in autumn as most plants are dying. It continues growing under light snow. It is often the only green living thing visible in a garden in February. Those tender stems carry compounds active against Candida fungi and gram-negative bacteria, including E. coli strains associated with urinary tract infections. The active agents are saponins and the flavonoid rutin. For internal use, cold steep overnight. Heat damages the saponin profile. Number 3. Stinging nettle, the blood infection. Warrior with armor. Urtica dioica. Yes, it stings. The plant is covered in microscopic hollow needles that inject histamine, acetylcholine, and formic acid. Here is what most gardeners do not know they are removing from the world. Nettle root contains a lectin called Urtica dioica agglutinin, which research has identified as binding to and disrupting the cell membranes of drug-resistant gram-positive bacteria. It targets specific surface proteins on bacterial cells, rather than the internal machinery most antibiotics attack. If bacteria evolve resistance through internal mutations, this external target pathway closes. Heat destroys the sting entirely. Blanch the young tops for 30 seconds in salted water. Number 2. Yarrow, the soldier's companion. Achillea millefolium. The Latin name carries the story. Achillea comes from Achilles, the warrior hero of the Iliad. Homer records that Achilles used yarrow to treat the wounds of his soldiers, staunching blood flow and preventing the infections that killed as many men as enemy weapons. The Chinese, the Navajo, the Norse, the Ojibwa, every military tradition of the ancient world arrived independently at the same plant for the same purpose. In 2018, research from the University of Thrace demonstrated that yarrow essential oil showed efficacy against methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, MRSA, in laboratory conditions. The mechanism involves achillin, apigenin, and several borneol derivatives working together. Steep 2 teaspoons of dried flowers in a cup of water just off the boil for 10 minutes, covered. Number 1. Creeping Charlie. The one that will not die. The one that will not let you die either. Glaucoma heteracea, ground ivy. The Anglo-Saxons called it alehoof and used it to clarify and preserve ale before hops became the universal bittering agent of Northern Europe. Every person who drank that ale was consuming, without knowing it, one of the most powerful antibacterial plant compounds in the European pharmacopoeia. The active agents are glecomine, a specific polysaccharide, and ursolic acid, a triterpenoid concentrated with unusual density in the small kidney-shaped leaves. Ursolic acid has been examined for activity against anaerobic bacteria, the populations that thrive in oxygen-depleted environments, in necrotic tissue, in deep wounds, in conditions where conventional antibiotics struggle to reach. Anglo-Saxon healers used ground ivy specifically for wounds that refused to close. 1 tablespoon of fresh torn leaves in a cup of warm water, not boiling. 70 degrees Celsius. Steep 8 minutes, covered. 12 plants, each one growing within feet of where you stand. Each one with documented antimicrobial compounds. Modern science is only beginning to map. Each one the ancient world treated as medicine. The plants survived everything we threw at them. The knowledge of how to work with them is more fragile than the plants themselves. If this opened your eyes, type the word temple in the comments. Share this with someone who still spends Saturday mornings at war with their lawn. And subscribe so you do not miss the next video where we walk through the specific preparation techniques that preserve each of these compounds. May God bless your hands, your soil, and your harvest.